Like every other manufacturer, Cadillac is looking to reinvent themselves as we head into the all-electric era, and the vehicle designed to get them started with that is this model here. This is the 2023 Lyriq. It's the first ever all-electric Cadillac designed from the ground up to be an EV, and as you can see from the design, it has a stunningly futuristic profile that we really haven't seen from any other Cadillac model. So today I'm actually out here in beautiful Park City, Utah for the first drive of this car, and the big question I want answered, does the all-electric Lyriq have what it takes to bring Cadillac into the electric future? Stay tuned to find out. So Cadillac has been talking about the Lyriq for quite a few years now, and now that I'm finally standing by the full production model, I have to say this is a stunningly interesting car. It looks very futuristic. It has a certain presence to it that I haven't seen in any other Cadillac model. And if you guys remember the Lyriq, this is a car that kind of upset a lot of Cadillac dealers because Cadillac essentially told them, we're going all electric by 2030, and if you're not making changes to follow us, then you can just kind of leave the brand. This is the car that is the future of Cadillac, so it's really exciting to see Cadillac making so many changes to their vehicles in the next few years. Let's start, of course, with the design language of the Lyriq. Of course, Cadillac has been showing off their art and science design theme for a few years. On the Lyriq, it's really stepped it up. They've really stepped up their game with the futuristic aspect here. You can see this is an all-electric vehicle from the start. It actually uses the Ultium battery technology that we first saw in the GMC Hummer EV. And because it's an EV, it doesn't require a grille. So you can see a lot of the front fascia here actually has these little interesting lines. These lines actually light up at night. They do an interesting little dance when you approach the vehicle, lock and unlock it, a sequence dance that shows, you know, the detail that Cadillac is putting in here. And it almost looks like a grille. There's some silver accents. There are these interesting turn signals here with an LED daytime running light, a sequential LED turn signal, and then you can see the headlights have this vertical design to them. You can see I have the high beams on now. Every single LED is lit up. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When you have the low beam on, actually only the top portion comes on, which is kind of interesting. I'll be waiting to see what this vehicle looks like at night. You can see you have that same kind of sculpted look for the front with the front splitter. There are some actual functional vents down here that allow some air to come through, although it looks like that grille can actually close off at the lower portion here to kind of help with aerodynamics. There is a front camera system over here, along with the new Cadillac logo. And overall, you can really see how wide this vehicle is. Remember, this is built off of an all-new, all-electric platform. It uses the Ultium battery technology. And if you're wondering where does the Lyriq fit in the Cadillac lineup, this is an interesting vehicle because looking at it from the side profile, you automatically think it's like the size of a BMW X5, which you'd be right because this car at 196 inches long is about 10 inches longer versus something like a Tesla Model Y or a Ford Mustang Mach-E. It's about the same size as something like the BMW iX, which I haven't had a chance to drive as of this filming. Its wheelbase is among the longest in the segment at 121 inches long. This is a big car, and it certainly has the presence to it. Cadillac says they designed this vehicle to be a Cadillac first and then to be an electric vehicle right after that, so it really has an amazing stance and proportion to it. Now looking at the wheels, Cadillac will offer a choice between a standard 20-inch wheel, and you can also go up to a 22-inch wheel. You can see this rear-wheel drive model has the bigger option. It's a 22-inch wheel wrapped in 275 40 Series R22 Michelin Primacy all-season tires. The wheels themselves have kind of like an aerodynamic look to them with some of these aero covers in the actual wheel. It's a good looking wheel, typical Cadillac fashion. It's got this kind of ultra bright chrome look to the wheel. I don't believe Cadillac offers like a black wheel option. This is, again, remember this is an all new model from the ground up. It's got a 4-wheel independent suspension with adaptive dampers. And if you guys are looking for the charge port door, that's going to be right here, which is an actual electrically opening charge port door, which offers your standard J1772 plug and the standard DC fast charging. This vehicle will be able to accept a maximum of up to 190 kilowatts, which means you can basically get 76 miles of range in just 10 minutes when you get it plugged into a DC fast charger. We'll talk about the range later on when we pop the hood of this vehicle. Now looking at the rest of the profile, you can see black side mirrors here with an LED integrated turn signal mirror. You've got a full panoramic glass roof. The roof does not open, but it lets in a lot of light into the cabin. And then you're also probably noticing the door handles on this vehicle. You can see They look like traditional door handles. They almost make me think I want to push them in and pull them out like I do with a Tesla, but Cadillac actually took a page here from Ford. When I push this, you can see it actually pushes the door out and it doesn't allow you to kind of slam this back on your hand. There's a little handle here that allows you to grab the door to open it. It's the same story here for the rear door. Push that out, you can see there's a little pad here that pushes the door out. It allows you to open the door. Very nice design, but unlike Ford where they put the button up here, Cadillac does that down here. I actually prefer the more flush look. But if you prefer a traditional look, this is certainly going to have that a little bit more with the door handles. You can see the fender flares. I like how they're black painted and they don't stick out too much. Cadillac didn't try to make this thing look too much like a rugged SUV with big boxy cladding. In fact, if you look at the proportions of this car, the height is not really that tall for a crossover. Remember, this is a crossover, but this area here is definitely an interesting angle because it almost looks like Cadillac stretched out the rear area over here to kind of give it that additional 10 inches of length versus a lot of its competitors. You can see the LED taillight here. You can actually see it blinking from the side here. Has a very, very distinctive look. And then following me over to the rest of the rear, you can see that distinctive look carries over where you have these LED taillights that have a sequential design when the turn signal is on. You have another turn signal down here where this area here also does that little light signature dance when you start or when you unlock the vehicle or you approach the car. Just like the front lights, these will also do an LED sequence dance. There are some, looks like fake vents down here. There's the Lyriq badge over here, and then this 450E badge right here. Cadillac has been putting this badge on a lot of their other vehicles. It's supposed to stand for the torque in Newton meters, which I think the number is kind of pointless. I guess E would be for electric. There is an all-wheel drive version coming, which should probably have a 600 badge on the back because the all-wheel drive model, remember, has about 160 more horsepower versus this model. Looking at the rest of the rear, you can see the rear bumper design looks pretty nice. You have these nicely integrated parking sensors. Remember, no visible or no exhaust tips. This is an all-electric vehicle from the start. And then when you want to get into the vehicle, to open up the tailgate, it's got a power lift gate, of course. You push the Cadillac logo here, that opens up the tailgate. I like how it's kind of integrated and hidden over there. And then for such a big vehicle, I have to say, I'm kind of surprised at how relatively small the cargo area is. Cadillac says you get around 26 cubic feet of space. Now this is still a very usable amount of space, but because of that lower roofline, you can see this, you can't really stack up the space quite as high. If you flip this open, you can see there's a big deep storage well here, which is actually a pretty good size. There's room to put the cargo lid over there. And if you want to fold down these seats, Cadillac allows you to do that electrically by just pushing this button here. You can see, fold down those seats, it expands the cargo to just under 61 cubic feet of space. Again, very usable space. The floor is not completely flat, but compared to some competitors, considering how large this car is, I'm surprised we don't have like over 75 cubic feet of space back here. I'm kind of nitpicking there, but it is still a very usable amount of space for an SUV. So we've already established that the exterior of the new Lyriq is very stunning, but what about the interior? Cadillac wanted this to be a Cadillac first, and I have to say, getting inside this vehicle, the inside looks very, very impressive. I mean, the materials in here alone, the technology, the way it's just been intricately designed, I am impressed. This is probably the nicest Cadillac interior, the most futuristic Cadillac interior that I've seen, which previously the Escalade held that title, and it's really cool to see the Lyriq kind of take that to the next level. Now, getting in and shutting the door has a nice solid sounding thunk, which you expect from something that wears the Cadillac badge. You can see the screen here is turning on for a second. It shows like the little startup scene or screen. This is one single screen here that's 33 inches across. That is the largest single display in the industry. Cadillac is very proud of that. If you guys remember, a lot of the competitors, they tend to have multiple screens that look like one. This is just one screen entirely, which we'll talk about that in just a second. Here's the key fob for the vehicle. The key looks surprisingly ordinary. This is the current key fob that GM is using. It's got remote start on the fob, the usual buttons. You can also use your phone as a key. They do offer a digital key option, which I'm not gonna be able to try that here because this is a very early first drive with a press vehicle, but the button here to turn everything on is right here where you'd expect it to be. So once you do that, let's go ahead and turn this on and get some AC cranking. Everything comes to life. It has the traditional GM bong that I expect. You can see this model here also has Super Cruise. That is standard on almost every Lyriq model out there. And if it doesn't have it due to the chip shortage, GM says they're going to be sending that over through an over-the-air update. But looking at this interior, you can see the curved display, the materials in here, all just make it feel like a true luxury car, which is what you expect for anything that wears the Cadillac badge. The door panels, let me start here on the materials. Now this material here is a soft touch injection molded plastic. I do wish that it was leather stitched. but at least the material feels nice. I love the wood trim here with its low gloss sheen. This is a matte finish wood. It's like a darker wood as well. It looks really high tech, or it looks really modern. It looks really sophisticated. Unlike the wood trim that you find in the Escalade, which is glossy, it looks kind of old school. This looks really nice. I also love the seat controls on the actual door panel as well. You can see the passenger seat has basically the same controls as the driver's seat. These are heated and ventilated seats with a massaging function. They adjust in 18 different ways. And you also have adjustable lumbar. The controls themselves also feel really high quality and tactile. You can see there's the massage, there's 3 different levels, there's the lumbar. You can also adjust the intensity of the massage. I can adjust basically everything with the seats. The leather on the seats also feel really high quality. They're really comfortable. I love the headrest here. These actually have speakers built into the headrest. What you're hearing, or what you're going to be listening to, is a 19-speaker AKG premium audio system, which sounds great. And the seats, I find them to be pretty comfortable and supportive. The rest of the door panel, you can see the AKG speakers have metal covers over them. The window controls also feel really high quality. This actually feels, or doesn't feel like any other GM product when I start using the switches. You have power folding mirrors here, of course, and you also have a little bit of storage down here. The door handle here is also interesting. You have this kind of metal look to the trim piece. When I pull up on this, it just opens up in the traditional way. So again, really cool detail, along with this little detail here. There is adjustable ambient lighting in this interior as well. I think Cadillac said they offer 26 different colors to choose from, which is definitely nice. The steering wheel, you can see, is an all-new design steering wheel. You have touch-sensitive buttons over here for your heated wheel, for the Super Cruise option, for getting to your radio information, going to your phone information, adjusting the volume, of course. The steering wheel itself is also a power tilt and telescoping, which, again, I expected for a vehicle that wears the Cadillac badge. I also like the new logo here and the way the steering wheel looks. This right here is for the Super Cruise status bar, which turns green, blue, or red, depending on what it's telling you. Even the switchgear here for the transmission selector, the turn signal stalk, it all feels very high quality, and I don't see these controls in any other Cadillac or GM product. So I expect this new switchgear to kind of cycle over into the other products as we go on through the years, but it all looks very, very nice. Now, looking at the dashboard here, you can see soft touch injection molded plastic, which is the same stuff that we find in the door panels. It all kind of goes over the entire dashboard. There's real aluminum trim here, stitching over here, although this is just a faux stitching, which is kind of carried over down here. More of those chrome accents with the aluminum trim. This right here, this panel, looks like I've seen in any of the other GM products, but you can see it's relatively nice to use, has a nice tactile, high quality feel. Even the dash vents, you can see they're controlled by this little joystick. You can close and open them up. They feel really nice and high quality. They have a nice satisfying feel to them. It's also carried over here on the passenger and on the driver's side. I love it with the aluminum trim here. It looks really nice. And then one cool feature with the Lyriq, because this is an electric vehicle, GM said that or Cadillac said that they were free to kind of design the interior to be a little bit more user-friendly. There's a big storage bin area over here where you can put a lot of things here, like your cell phone, keys, sunglasses, wallet, whatever you name it. There's a USB-C charging port over here. And then this is really cool over here. You push this in, this pops out right here to reveal this really nifty storage compartment. You can see the storage compartment is actually leather lined, and this feels relatively sturdy. Like, for example, I can take my smartphone and kind of put it in there if I'd like and close that up, which is really nice. I like how the detail in there shows like the same blue leather that you see down here. So this is a really cool little feature. This floating center console area here is going to have your cup holders, obviously, and even the cup holders are really beautifully designed. There's a lot of interior jewelry. That's what Cadillac calls it, with the glass control here for the infotainment system, the touch-sensitive controls here. As you can see, however, all that piano black plastic, it does get a lot of smudges and fingerprint marks. So those of you who are a little OCD about that, you're going to want to keep a cleaning cloth in here, which I think Cadillac will do anyways when you buy the car. The cool thing about these cup holders is there's actually kind of this little portion here that will pop up. So picture if you guys have a mug in here with coffee, you can push this down, you can actually have the handle sit over here. So that's a nice little detail that I think Cadillac definitely was thinking about. This padded center console area also feels relatively nice. Open this up. You can see there's a USB-C charging port, another USB-C over here, so 3 in the front total. Decent storage over here along with a 12 volt. You can see this right here is the wireless phone charging pad. My iPhone 12 Pro Max fits in there quite nicely, which is good. And now let's come back to this screen over here, because I want to show you guys what this screen is like. Now, first of all, I mentioned earlier, this is one continuous piece. So it's a 33-inch curved OLED display. Cadillac says it has the ability to show over 1 billion different colors. So this is a really high quality display. And unlike the screen that that we've seen in the Escalade, which is like 4 different screens combined into one. This is just one screen. So you can see here on the left, you can adjust your headlight controls, which they're going to be here on the screen. Click on this little area here, it'll show your trip computer. You can also kind of cycle through your trip 1, trip 2. Go over here to the gauge display. You can see you can put a map display here, which I have. There's a traditional gauge display. There's an energy display that shows you how much energy you're recouping or what you're using. And then there's also a clean display, which kind of minimizes all the information in case it's a little bit too much overload. This side over here has all of your infotainment stuff. Now, first of all, this is the newest Android-based operating system that I've shown you guys in the new GMC Sierra. In this car, it definitely looks specifically designed for it. The one thing I really appreciate, however, is the wireless CarPlay. You can see it does take up the entire screen. Remember in the Escalade, there was this like area here where it was totally blacked out. So as you can see now, it goes to the entire edge of the screen. However, I want you to notice something. When I pull up Waze, for example, it actually does stop right here, but it keeps the background of CarPlay in the background there. So it looks a little bit nicer. Still kind of wish it went a little bit farther, but this is an improvement versus what I've seen in the Escalade. As you can see as well, it's very quick and snappy. It looks really high tech. Love the way this screen looks. Going back to the actual Cadillac display, let's go ahead and put the map display over here. You can see the map display takes up the entire screen here and it looks great. I love how it goes all the way to the outer edge. Here's your audio information, which again, it all looks really crystal clear. It's quick and snappy. It's easy to use. Going over here to that, you can actually go access your one pedal drive, your doors and windows, all your usual vehicle settings. So that all is fairly nice. This system is fairly intuitive and really easy to use. You can see push that goes directly to your audio settings information. Push that little lightning bolt. You can see this is all your different charging stuff. And then if you're probably wondering, how do I change the drive modes in this vehicle? Now, first of all, there are several different pages. This is like the screen that shows like the home screen. And then over here, there's some icons. And then scroll over here. This is actually your drive mode selector. It's here in the screen. I was looking for a singular button, but surprisingly, they don't have that. But push that drive mode there. You can see there's touring, sport, snow, ice, and then my mode. And then Cadillac allows you to turn the one pedal drive on and off from here. And you can also pull this paddle right here on the wheel. This gives you maximum regen braking for true one pedal driving. That's all really nice and easy to use. We'll talk about that later on in the driving scene. I do wish that Cadillac gave us a separate button for the drive mode selector, but it's all relatively, well laid out here, and this all looks really great. When I put the vehicle into reverse, which by the way, you do that by pulling this toward you and then kicking this up, that goes into reverse. You can see there's your backup camera. It has trajectory. It's really, really clear quality resolution. You can see there's a side view where you can see the actual wheels, so you don't curb these wheels. And then you can also do a top-down panoramic view, which for some reason it's not letting me do that right now. But overall, I am impressed with the technology here. It all works fairly well. Looking at the glove compartment here before I forget, to open this up, it looks like, oh God. What's
probably in the screen too?
Controls. Oh, here we go. Glove box release over here on the screen. So push that, you can see that opens up the glove box. It's a bin style, it's damped, and it's lined with all. It's actually a good size. So there is a ton of storage space in this car. It's also really easy to see out of. You have the digital camera review mirror, which if you don't like it, you can kind of go back to a traditional mirror. And then looking above me here, you can see the glass roof. Massive amount of light that comes through. Sadly, this doesn't open, but unlike something like the Ford Mustang Mach-E or Teslas, there is a power retractable sunshade here. So if you don't want the sun, beaming down on you, you can close that off and get a little bit of shade. But overall, very impressed with the interior. But let's go ahead and hop in the back seat and see how much space is back there. Now, getting into the back seat of the Lyriq, because this vehicle has one of the longest wheelbases in the segment, Cadillac claims near best-in-class legroom. In fact, at around 39.5 inches of legroom back here, there is a ton of space, roughly an inch or so more than most of its competition. You can see down here, the floor is almost completely flat, or it basically is completely flat. For somebody my height, I have a ton of foot space underneath here to kind of stretch my legs about. And then the seat bench itself actually has a good amount of thigh support. The leather feels really nice. And then you can see in terms of headroom, I do have a fairly good amount of headroom. The panoramic glass roof lets in a ton of light, and there's also some nice LED lighting throughout the cabin. Now, in terms of some other features, let's talk about the door panels. It's the same soft touch injection molded plastic as the front seats. You have that same non-glossy dark wood grain trim with more of that piano black plastic. So the one thing I'm noticing back here, however, there is no heated back seats or ventilated back seats. I was actually surprised it doesn't have that feature. You do have, thankfully, rear seat air vents, a little bit of a storage shelf over here, 2 USB-C charging ports, and then an actual 110 or 120 power outlet over here, which is nice. 2 storage pockets as well. And then if you fold down this armrest, it has the usual cup holders here, where it's a nice place to kind of rest your arm for 2 people. You could fit 3 across in this vehicle because it's so wide. The seat sadly does not recline. It's pretty much fixed in its position, but the headroom and the leather all feels really nice. So obviously if you guys want to plan to put adults back here or a car seat, the Lyriq is definitely going to be one of the easier electric SUVs to do that in. Now, in case you guys are wondering, this is what the vehicle looks like when the headlights are off. You can see it has that signature vertical light pipe that really gives this car a distinctive light signature, especially when you have it driving out in the later part of the day where it's starting to get a little bit dark. But let's go ahead and open up the hood because I want to show you guys, of course, the million-dollar question: does this vehicle have a frunk? And I'm sorry to report, for those of you who are hoping it would, it does not have a frunk. When you lift up this little plastic piece here, you can see there is a little bit of space in there, but mostly what you see is the motor or the inverters. You see some cables and wires and whatnot. The reason being, I'll get to that in just a moment, the Chinese market Lyriq, from what I understand, actually does have a frunk. But since we're underneath the hood here, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs. Now, Cadillac will launch this car with single motor rear wheel drive. That'll be the first model you can get. The all-wheel drive version will be coming early next year. So for those of you who can wait a little bit longer, you'll be rewarded with more power. This model here is the rear wheel drive model. It makes 340 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. For those of you who want that extra motor, it actually will increase the power to 500 horsepower. So it's a pretty significant jump, 160 horsepower for an extra $2,000. It sounds like a no-brainer. We don't have the final torque figures yet of the all-wheel drive model, but I suspect it to be well over 500 pound-feet as well. It all goes out through a 1-speed reduction gear transmission, so it's got no gears basically. And like I said earlier, this model here is rear-wheel drive. Cadillac says it should get to 60 in around 6 seconds. This has a 100 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. That's the only size battery you can get for now. It's the Ultium battery pack. It's about half the size that we've seen in the GMC Hummer EV, because remember, this is not a truck. It's not quite as heavy. It'll reach a top speed of around 118 miles per hour. That's what Cadillac tells us. And this one here is a still heavy vehicle considering the size of the Lyriq. The rear drive model weighs in at around 5,600 pounds, add about 300 pounds more for the all-wheel drive version. This is almost the same weight as a Cadillac Escalade ESV, their largest and flagship SUV. So it kind of shows you just how heavy a lot of these electric cars are. And let me go ahead and close the hood. And I showed you guys the charge port earlier, but I want to go into a little bit more detail about the charging and explain to you why this car doesn't have a frunk. Now, opening this up, you can see there's the charge port. This vehicle comes standard with an 11 kilowatt hour onboard charger. That's the standard rate for most people, or for most EVs, when you have this vehicle hooked up to a level 2 at your home. That's with a 50 amperage rating for your house. That'll roughly charge the vehicle at around 37 miles an hour. That's the standard onboard charger that you can get with this car. Now, this rear wheel drive model has an optional 19.2 kilowatt onboard charger. That's among the fastest in the industry. Really only Lucid and Rivian offer something just as quick. That'll allow you to charge this vehicle at your home on a level 2 when you upgrade the amperage to 100 amps at around 52 miles per hour. So that's a significant jump in charging speed. It'll basically allow you to go from 0 to empty in this car in about 8 hours versus 12 hours if you guys are on that 11.5 kilowatt onboard charger. That faster onboard charger is the reason why this car doesn't have a frunk. The US market, they apparently said they wanted to prioritize quicker charging, and if they wanted to throw a frunk in there with that faster charger, it would be really small and really minuscule, and that's precisely why the Chinese market Lyriq has the frunk, because they don't have that faster onboard charger, so the frunk is a little bit larger, or they could design the frunk to be larger and a little bit more useful. As I mentioned earlier, this will also accept a maximum of 190 kilowatts for DC fast charging. That's level 3 charging if you guys are on a road trip. What that means basically is you can go, or you can add about 76 miles of range into the battery if you spend about 10 minutes on that fast charger. So that's pretty quick, although not as quick as the GMC Hummer EV or the Hyundai Ioniq 5 or Kia EV6, which will accept up to 350 kilowatts. I believe they don't allow that to save costs, because remember, the Lyriq is a much more affordable vehicle versus most of its competition. But honestly, I think that faster onboard charger is probably one of the reasons why a lot of consumers are going to end up choosing this vehicle, because it is among the fastest chargers that you'll find in the industry. In terms of range, this rear-wheel drive model will also go about 312 miles on a full charge, which is pretty good. This is over the 300-mile mark that most people want. I suspect for all-wheel drive, which we don't have final EPA ratings yet, we'll probably be looking at around 290 miles of range, so right under 300 miles. That's on par with most of its competitors. And if you guys want to tow, you're going to want to go for the all-wheel drive model, because that'll tow a maximum of 3,500 pounds. This rear-wheel drive model is not rated to tow anything. All right, so here we are in the future of Cadillac, their very first all-electric SUV or all-electric vehicle. I have to say, I've been really excited to drive this car. Sad it's not the all-wheel drive model, but hey, we'll take what we can get. I'm gonna start off the video driving portion with a 0 to 60 test. Cadillac claims 6 seconds for this model. We have it in sport mode, as you can see. This car has almost a full charge. It's like 90% charge or something like that. So let's go ahead and see what we can get when you put the hammer down. Feels quick off the line, but it definitely could use that extra motor in the front. 6.47 seconds there. Now that is going uphill slightly. It's like a 3% gradient or uphill slope. So we'll try it again up ahead here where it's gonna be hopefully more level ground. That's actually pretty impressive performance. This vehicle does feel pretty heavy. Remember, we're dealing with a car that weighs roughly 6,000 or 5,600 pounds. She's no featherweight, but it does have very good power off the line. Man, I could really want to drive this car with the extra motor, but this is not bad. Certainly not bad. 6.29 seconds there. So that one was going a little more level ground, but again, Cadillac says 6 seconds. It feels about right. This definitely feels on par with most of the other competition that you find with a single motor rear wheel drive version. I mean, I'm thinking cars like the Ford Mustang Mach-E, Volkswagen ID4 is slower than this. If you go for the rear drive model, the all-wheel drive model is going to be quicker. But again, this is not bad. This powertrain in general, this is built off of the Ultium platform, so it's got that 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's about roughly half the size of the GMC Hummer EV. And it seems well matched for this car. I mean, put my foot down there, you can really feel it first surge initially, but then you can see peak power doesn't arrive until about 47 miles an hour. So the fact that it is kind of limiting the peak power off the line is going to slow the 0 to 60 time. If Cadillac, gave you all 100% of the power by like 20 miles an hour, it certainly would feel a lot quicker than this. But remember, this is supposed to be a luxury vehicle, so just kind of cruising along, you definitely feel the low center of gravity in this car. It's got those heavy batteries kind of lining the floor, so it's going to feel really well planted, really secure. The ride quality of this car, though, is just really, really good. In fact, I'm driving the rear drive model with the 22-inch wheels, and I am amazed. I'm shocked at how comfortable the ride quality is. It really feels like a Cadillac. Cadillacs have always had a certain feel to them when you're driving them, and this feels every bit just like a Cadillac, except just all electric. The regen braking in this car also is very strong. This is with it in its maximum setting right now, and it actually will bring the car to a full stop, and it's the strongest regen I've ever felt, actually. And if you want, you can even pull this paddle here and hold it. That'll actually increase the regen to its full maximum capacity when you pull and hold that paddle shifter, but you don't really need to because the car just regen brakes and one pedal drives for you all the time. But other than that, the seats are pretty comfortable. I'm sitting here getting a massage, which is nice. The leather feels really plush. It feels really expensive. The steering is really light. It is a little numb and devoid of feel, but put my foot down here, you can hear the electric motor sound. Now you can turn that fake sound off if you don't prefer to hear it, but I kind of like it actually. It's a nice subtle sound. It's not too loud. It's not too obnoxious. I've driven some EVs that have a really obnoxious sound, but this is kind of, it almost sounds natural. It sounds like they're basically taking the electric motor, the natural electric motor noise, and amplifying it. So I do like that. Put my foot down here, you can feel plenty of power to get around cars, and that's kind of the purpose of this vehicle. Again, if you want more, the all-wheel drive version will give you an extra 160 horsepower. But even this model here, going 45 miles an hour, punch it, it's got good torque. That's what you want in an EV, is that instantaneous torque. This is nice. I kind of like the way this car feels. It actually surprises me. I like this car more than I thought I would, even though I'm not driving the fastest one that I would prefer to be in. But what shocks me the most is how quiet this car is. Tons of sound deadening materials, so you get that luxury car ride with the luxury car quietness, along with the zero engine noise. I mean, because imagine this vehicle, is built from the ground up to be an EV, but imagine if it wasn't. Imagine if they just put the 3.6 liter, naturally aspirated V6 in this car. It would be slow, it would be lethargic. So the fact that it is all electric makes the car more interesting. And you know what? When I started this drive on a full charge, it was showing about 311 miles of range on a full charge. That's pretty much bang on with the EPA's numbers. So that's very, very good. The all-wheel drive model, I suspect, will probably lower that range by about 20 miles is what my guess would be. But overall, just kind of driving this thing around town, this is where you're going to really feel the benefits of an EV because of the regen braking, the quietness, the instantaneous torque. The tech in this car is also really good. I am genuinely surprised. I mean, obviously, Cadillac went with a more luxury theme here, but this feels a lot more, it feels like a step above, obviously, a Mustang Mach-E or a Tesla Model Y. Very similar to the Audi e-tron, but the beauty about this car is, unlike the e-tron, this is a really affordable car. I mean, this one that we're driving is like $63,000 and some change. The interior feels great. The tech in it is good. It's got good range. Charging speed is, 190 kilowatts of maximum charge. You could probably do, a 10 to 80% charge in like just under 40 minutes, which isn't bad. But overall, driving the Lyriq here on this really brief, short first drive, it gets me excited to drive the all-wheel drive model. It also gets me excited about a V version. I mean, obviously, Cadillac, the Performance Division V, still is going to be, or they're going to be switching to all EV after the current V models go away. And this is a great chassis to start with. It's got a great refined feel. It's got a comfortable interior, really refined, really quiet. The tech is among the best that I've seen, and the interior materials are also excellent. So Cadillac took their time with this car, and it really shows. I mean, it shows when you see the car in person, but it also shows when you start driving this vehicle. So if you guys have one of these on order, you're going to be really excited when you finally take delivery of this car, when it goes on sale in the next couple of months. So Cadillac has spent the better part of 4 years developing the Lyriq, and I have to say, after spending the day driving this vehicle out in Park City, Utah, I am very impressed. Cadillac wanted this car to be a Cadillac first and an electric vehicle second, and it really shows in the ride quality, the quality of the materials, just the overall fit and finish. This car seriously takes Cadillac to the next level for me. I really was impressed the most with the infotainment system and the luxurious feel of the interior. This feels like a really expensive car, and it also feels like it's worthy of the Cadillac badge. In terms as an electric vehicle, this vehicle was showing around 311 miles on a full charge, which I think is also pretty good. I'll be curious to see what the final rating ends up being for the all-wheel drive version. And as you guys saw from the test drive, I got 0 to 60 in around 6.2 seconds. It's going to be quick enough for most people, but for somebody like me who craves even faster acceleration, we expect the all-wheel drive version to be just under 5 seconds, 0 to 60, which should be quick enough for most. Hopefully, Cadillac will also see fit to do a V version of this car, because I think there is definitely room for one. Where I do have a couple of questions for Cadillac when it comes to the Lyriq is where it fits in the lineup, because Cadillac tells me that they consider this car to be a compact luxury SUV. A compact luxury SUV, something like a Tesla Model Y, a Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Audi Q4 e-tron that's upcoming. This car, however, is about the same size as a Tesla Model X or a BMW iX or an Audi e-tron, the SUV version of the car. So it's priced like a compact luxury SUV, but it's sized like a mid-size luxury SUV. The interior is more akin to a mid-size. However, I was surprised at the trunk space at around 60 cubic feet total is a little bit smaller than most of the mid-size competition out there. Now, the really interesting part about this car is how they've priced it. And I'm seriously wondering, how has Cadillac made this car so affordable? Now, affordable is in quotes, because a $59,990 base price for the launch edition model is certainly not cheap, but if you look at what you're getting, Cadillac has made this car extremely well equipped. For those of you who are lucky enough to be able to order one of those early ones, for about $60,000 for the rear drive version, that is a pretty good steal. Now, back on May 18th, Cadillac opened up order books for the rear-wheel drive model again. However, it wasn't the special launch model, which was around $62,990. If you guys want to wait for all-wheel drive, which Cadillac says they will be starting deliveries of all-wheel drive in early 2023, that model will start at $2,000 higher, $64,990. And Cadillac also tells me there aren't really any options to add. Basically, this satin steel color, and then the wheels, which are like $1,500 if you guys want the 22-inch wheels, which means this car is going to be significantly cheaper than most of the competition. Remember, competition like the Tesla Model X in terms of size is going to be double the price of this vehicle. And if you're going to look at something like the BMW iX, it'll roughly be about $20,000 to $30,000 more expensive, especially if you don't go for the higher end versions of that car. And something like the Genesis GV60 is also a direct competitor, or the upcoming Lexus RZ, which we don't have pricing on that. The Genesis is significantly smaller, and I'd also argue Cadillac has done a really fantastic job with the overall package of this car, which, by the way, if you guys are watching this video and you decide, I want to order this car now, how long are you going to have to wait? Well, Cadillac says order books are still open. You can go onto their website. All the 2023s, however, are sold out. So now you're going to have to wait about 8 to 9 months, they say, for a 2024 model. So you're going to be waiting until late spring of 2023 for that version, which isn't too long of a wait. But I'd argue that if you guys have been waiting for the Cadillac of luxury SUVs, this vehicle will certainly fit the bill. And I think it's a great step forward for Cadillac as they move on to the electric future. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2023 Cadillac Lyriq. Lyriq. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.